7. Explosive discovery. In July of 2022, a 1,000-pound bomb was discovered by fishermen along the banks of the River Po in Italy. The country had recently experienced its worst drought in 70 years, and huge sections of the 400-mile river had dried up, exposing what was underneath. According to Italian military officials, the bomb contained 530 pounds of explosives, and it was found near the village of Borgo Virgilio. After stumbling across the unexploded device, around 3,000 residents had to be evacuated from the area so that bomb disposal experts could detonate it safely. River traffic and the airspace above the site also had to be shut down so they could go ahead with the controlled explosion. The River Po is Italy's longest flowing river, stretching from the southwestern Alps all the way down to the Adriatic Sea. However, recent satellite images from 2022 have revealed that patches of dried riverbed are expanding along the river, no doubt as a result of the extreme drought the country's been facing. After making this discovery, a state of emergency was declared for the areas surrounding the river by Italian officials. The Po reportedly irrigates about 1/3 of Italy's agricultural production, but its current has now grown so weak that salty seawater has begun to seep into the river, which has devastated crops for farmers in the country. As water levels continue to retreat, who knows what else could be hiding under the surface. 6. Japanese mega submarine. In August of 2013, scientists discovered a Japanese submarine from World War II off the Hawaiian coast. The vessel was 400 feet long and was classified as a Sentoku-type sub. It was one of the largest pre-nuclear submarines ever constructed, and it had been missing since 1946. Scientists from the University of Hawaii made the initial discovery, and they identified the vessel as the I-400. During its time in service, it was said that the sub could travel around the world 1.5 times before it had to stop and refuel, and it was also capable of carrying up to 3 folding-wing bombers that could be launched from its deck just minutes after resurfacing. The submarine was found at a depth of 2,300 feet below the North Pacific Ocean, solving the mystery of the vessel's final fate. Apparently, the United States Navy had captured 5 of the Japanese Imperial Navy subs, the I-400 being one of them, toward the end of the Second World War. They then brought the vessels to Pearl Harbor in order to inspect them, but the I-400 was badly torpedoed and it partially collapsed in on itself before sinking into the water at a steep angle. According to Jim Delgado, an archaeologist for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the US intentionally sank the I-400, but claimed that they didn't have any information on its precise location. This was a way for them to keep the Japanese technology out of the Soviet Union's hands, who demanded that the submarine be returned after they were initially captured. 5. Top secret message. A carrier pigeon from World War II was discovered in a chimney in Surrey, England in 2012, and surprisingly, it still had a coded message tied to its leg. The pigeon was found by Anne and David Martin while they were tearing out their fireplace. As they were doing this, they found the bones of a bird. The couple almost threw the pigeon away, but then they noticed a red container attached to one of its legs. Inside the container was a small strip of paper with a series of 27 coded messages, all made up of different numbers and letters. Anne and David weren't sure what they'd found, so they sent the letter to the curator of the Pigeons at War exhibition, Colin Hill. Carrier pigeons were utilized extensively throughout the entirety of World War II as a way of transporting secret messages back and forth without being easily intercepted. The postal system couldn't be trusted, and there were a lot of people who didn't have access to a telegram machine. At the time, text messaging and email weren't a thing, so they had to look into alternative methods of sending important letters. The pigeon found in Surrey, England was a shocking discovery to say the least. The little bird had been hiding in the home for over 70 years, and the message tied to its leg was still clearly visible. However, the information was coded, but Colin Hill helped to solve it. When he investigated the message, he came to the conclusion that it was most likely sent to Bomber Command shortly after D-Day by a unit in Normandy. In Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, the government communication headquarters GCHQ also took a look at the coded message, but they couldn't figure out exactly what it said. It wasn't until a team of Canadian researchers from Lakefield Heritage Research studied the code that it was deciphered. They did this by utilizing an artillery codebook from World War I. The researchers were able to figure out that the letter was sent by Sergeant William Stott, a paratrooper who landed in occupied Normandy on a secret reconnaissance mission. Apparently, he was sent there in order to assess the strength of the German military in the area. After landing behind enemy lines, he sent a message via carrier pigeon to HQ Bomber Command requesting more information from them, but the letter never made it to its intended destination. Unfortunately, Stott was killed in action just a few weeks after he sent the message. The difficulty researchers had in coding the letter proves just how sophisticated code-making was during the war. In order to hide messages in case they fell into the wrong hands, intelligence had to come up with more and more complex methods of hiding information. Would you rather find out that your neighbor has a huge collection of Nazi paraphernalia, or discover a large unexploded bomb in your backyard that the government pays you to remove? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. 4. Nazi Tank Collector. A home near the German city of Kiel was raided in 2015 after German investigators received a tip regarding stolen Nazi artwork. They entered the residence expecting to find some paintings, but instead, they discovered the owner's underground garage filled with all sorts of World War II era weapons. Hidden below this man's house was a personal military museum of sorts, which contained a torpedo, anti-aircraft guns, mortars, over 1,500 rounds of ammunition, and the craziest of all, a German Panther tank. But who was this eccentric war memorabilia collector, and how did he come to be in possession of a weapon capable of mass destruction? Well, it turned out that the home belonged to Klaus Dieter Flick, a man who actively sought out wartime artifacts. He supposedly transported the tank to his hometown of Heikendorf from the Netherlands when a British arms collector reached out to him in 1977. The arms collector found the Panther tank in Surrey while it was being prepared to be sent to the scrapyard, but he thought that Klaus may be able to restore the machine, so he gave him a call, subsequently saving the tank from destruction. A few years later, in 1980, Klaus started the process of restoring the tank. However, this was no easy task as the machine was in very bad condition. The man undertaking the project was once interviewed by the German radio station NDR1 Welle Nord, but he kept his identity a secret. He described the state of the tank in the interview, stating that the sides of the military vehicle were completely cut out and the barrel of the gun was also sliced off. He explained that he had to use other pieces of a Panther tank he had acquired in order to fully repair it. According to a local newspaper during this time, Klaus's entire restoration project had to cost upwards of 500,000 German marks, which would be around $268,575 today. This is not accounting for inflation. In this article, they also claim that the tank's engine was repaired by the Federal Republic of Germany, or the Bundeswehr, for a total of 28,000 euros, $29,407. You would think that Klaus would try to keep this project a secret, but apparently everyone in his neighborhood was aware of what he was doing in his underground garage. Several residents that lived nearby Klaus reported his actions to law enforcement as well as the media, but nobody ever came to stop him or to confiscate the military vehicle. During the snow catastrophe in Germany during the winter of 1978, Klaus was seen by multiple people driving the tank around. These accounts were confirmed by the mayor of Heikendorf, Alexander Orth, in an article that was published in the German daily newspaper called Süddeutsche Zeitung. Klaus kept this tank in his garage for nearly 40 years before he ever faced any consequences. But after his weapons cache was discovered by investigators, the German military was sent in to remove every piece of his collection, including the Panther tank. It took 20 men a total of 9 hours to fully remove the tank from the home. As a result of his not-so-secret illegal hobby, Klaus was fined 558,551 German marks, $300,000. He was forced to pay an additional 61,434 marks for lying about the Bundeswehr helping him restore the tank's engine. In addition, he was also ordered to serve a 14-month suspended prison sentence. 3. Fatty fines. In 2012, a storm raged across Scotland over the holiday months, and as a result, several unusual World War II-era relics washed up on the country's frigid coast. About 100 miles from North Edinburgh at St. Cyrus Natural Reserve, 4 giant chunks of lard washed up on the beach. The lard was no longer contained within their original barrels, but the tallow was still virtually intact. According to local officials, the pig fat was still formed into a barrel shape, and it was still a bright white color beneath the layers of barnacles that had grown on its exterior. But where did this lard come from? This was a question that many locals were likely wondering at the time, and the answer came from the manager of St. Cyrus Natural Reserve, Therese Alampo. She released a statement to the Scottish Natural Heritage (SNH), explaining that the storm had broken apart a shipwreck that was buried on the beach, unleashing the tallow from within it. Apparently, this wasn't the first time lard has washed up on the beaches of Scotland. This first happened during World War II, when a merchant ship was bombed, unleashing barrels of fat into the sea, subsequently ending up on the country's coast. Angus McCarty, a local resident, told SNH that the barrels first started appearing along the shore in 1940, and they've continued to do so every couple of decades when a bad storm hits the area. 2. The Lost Battlefield. Ottawa is the site where a World War II-era battlefield was discovered in Papua New Guinea in 2010. It's located to the west of the Eora Creek village at an elevation of approximately 6,502 feet. The site has since been given the nicknames the Lost Battlefield and the Japanese Forest Fort. After the Japanese started to withdraw from the area northward, this place was fully reinforced with defenses against the ever-advancing Australians. On a ridge overlooking the land below, Ottawa was established as a strong defensive position, equipped with rifle pits and machine guns. Starting on October 22, 1942, the Battle of Eora Creek began, and it lasted a total of 7 days. In the end, the Japanese were forced to flee as they were outnumbered and outsmarted by the Australian military. For many years following the battle, people in the area avoided this place out of respect for the spirits who lost their lives in combat, and they've also protected the battlefield from disturbances as well as from outsiders. However, on April 23, 2010, Brian Freeman, a former military man, rediscovered Ottawa. While investigating the site, he found the remains of 3 forgotten Japanese soldiers, several helmets, plenty of ammunition, and weapons including unexploded bombs. Today, Ottawa is managed by NMAG, the National Museum of Art Gallery, and is under the protection of the Kokoda Military Heritage Management Plan, KMHMP, since it's within the Kokoda Interim Protection Zone. They funded 2 archaeological projects here in 2011 and 2012, and since then, all of the human remains have been recovered. The area is currently off limits to the general public, but NMAG has plans to open it to visitors sometime in the near future. 1. Hitler's cartoons. In 2008, a man from northern Norway named William Huckvug purchased some old drawings from a German auction, which he claims were done by Adolf Hitler himself. Among the sketches, he found colorful cartoons depicting Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs characters Doc and Bashful from the 1937 Disney film, each of which was signed A.H. or A. Hitler. He also discovered an unsigned drawing of Pinocchio, just as he appeared in the movie from 1940. You may be wondering, why would Hitler draw Disney cartoon characters? Well, the answer is quite simple. Before he turned into the harsh and deplorable dictator we all know from history class, he actually tried to make a living as an artist. Hitler also apparently owned 2 copies of Snow White, and it's been reported that he frequently watched the film in his private cinema. However, there hasn't been any confirmation as to whether these were real, authentic sketches done by the Nazi leader. Huckvug claimed to have performed numerous tests on the drawings, and he found that they dated back to 1940, but there's no way to truly confirm whether they were completed by Hitler or not. However, the signatures on the sketches seem to match up with some of the dictator's other paintings and artwork, so unless confirmed otherwise, Hitler may have been an avid fan of Disney and even drew some of the beloved characters from their films from time to time. Which of these discoveries from World War II did you find the most fascinating? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!